जो जिंदगी से मिल न सका उसका गम भी था, फिर बेवफा सनम मिला उसका अलम भी था। शिकवा किया न कोई शिकायत किसी से की, फिर अपनी जबान का मुझको भरम भी था। जिस रास्ते पे चल के अब आए हो मेरे पास, चुपचाप लौट जाओ उसी रास्ते से तुम। अब आके इस जिंदगी को मैं समझाऊं ऐ सनम, तुम मेरे प्यार के अभी काबिल नहीं रहे। मैं एक नए सफर की अभी इब्तदा पे हूँ, और इस सफर में तुम मेरी मंजिल नहीं रहे। जिस रास्ते पे चल के अब आए हो मेरे पास, चुपचाप लौट जाओ उसी रास्ते से तुम।
You were just listening to some couplets from a ghazal called Jis Raste Se Chal Ke Aaye Ho Tum Mere Paas by our dear friend Dr. Shahid Mahmood. If you enjoyed his poetry, you can find more on his TikTok page, dr.shahid1966. Stay tuned as we continue with the IED podcast.
All right, so Broccoli, I had a bone to pick with you.
Pick it.
So a few weeks ago, we met a guy, and your expression.
I'm intrigued. We met a guy?
Yeah.
We do that?
And I mean, networking.
Right.
And you just couldn't stop talking about his genes and, about how great his genes are and this and that. And I just, you've never said that about me. Like, I don't have good genes.
Now I know who you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was one of those moments, where you look at a guy and you feel like, what happened to me?
I mean, I have good genes. I have American Eagle and G-Star Raw and Levi's and,
No.
I don't think
No.
I don't think
The
this-
only thing you have in your wardrobe is super dry.
Superdry is still a good brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're blind.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, the guy he's a good looking guy.
Okay.
So I was talking about that jeans, not the pende. मैं Levi's और उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा था. I was talking about how good looking he was, and I wanted to appreciate that, and I wanted to, say a good few words about it.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with having a man crush.
I felt left out.
I love you, man. You know that.
Thanks, man.
I can have all the man crush. At the end of the day, it's you and me against the world. Bonnie and Clyde, baby.
There we go. Anyway, welcome, guys, to another episode of Intellectually Devolved and Emotionally Damaged. Today we're talking about the shit that exes leave us with.
Heavy.
This is going to be an interesting episode. And this is, again, part one of 2 episodes that we will be doing. And we will have, like we said in the last episode, more people joining us to get their thoughts and their ideas on the shit that exes leave us with.
So this is the thought process that we had was कि हम ये सब बातें कर रहे हैं and we're doing all of these discussions and these conversations, but we also want to involve people and see what they want to talk about, their experiences, their stories, because this show is about having this conversation, but this show is also about listening to stories, actual good stories, actual hero stories.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick and tired. So I like, you had a bone to pick with me. I have a bone to pick with this whole society and this whole country and the whole world. We all love Shah Rukh Khan. We all love these movie stars. But are they really heroes? No. They're entertainers. There's nothing heroic about sitting in front of the camera, doing stunts. They don't even do their stunts, by the way, themselves. There's nothing heroic about it. And I spoke to a film star and he agrees. There's nothing heroic about that field. And we are so focused on celebrities, on these people who are not heroes, that we're not talking about the actual heroes जो बेचारे जिनको कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा जिनके बारे में. So this is why, if you have a story to tell, and if you are somebody I know or somebody who follows us, please write to us and let us know if you want to be part of our next episode of this, because this is going to be slightly heavy. Trigger warning, we are going to be discussing stuff that might trigger a lot of people. We're going to be throwing some shade. We are going to be voicing our opinions about a lot of stuff that boys and girls do. And since we are not supporting particularly any gender, that's not the agenda here. We are going to call out men where they're wrong. We're going to call out women where they're wrong.
Yeah.
So let's go.
All right. So this is something that you and I have, we both have close experiences with, which is, let's just face it, that broken relationships, broken marriages are a very real part of society now, of things as they are. Relationships break down. Some of the best relationships break down. Someone who you thought would, be with you through thick and thin, sickness and health and all of that good stuff. And one day they just wake up and something, I don't know, switches on or off. And like Ross and kya tha,
Rachel.
No, his ex, and suddenly she decided, okay, she doesn't like men anymore. And
So it doesn't happen overnight. I think there is no definite one way of how it happens. With some people it might happen like overnight. With some people it's a slow death, which they try to avoid, but eventually it breaks. And breakups are bad, breakups are hard, breakups are ugly. And हर किसी का दर्द अपना है, हर किसी का उसको एक्सप्रेस करने का तरीका अपना है, हर किसी को उसको प्रोसेस करने का तरीका अच्छा, which जिस पे मैं थोड़ी सी रिसर्च कर रहा था, and I found this really interesting stat. So yeah, so I'm going to just read out, because I don't want to misquote anything, so I'm just going to read out that. There was a study done by University College London in sort of association with Binghamton University. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Binghamton University and University College London. They did a research. 5,705 participants from 96 countries were involved.
okay.
And they were asked to rate the emotional and physical pain of a breakup on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay? It was noted that women were much more negatively affected emotionally and physically by heartbreak as compared to men. While emotional sadness for women was 6.84 out of 10 post-breakup, for men it was 6.58. Not a huge difference. Not a huge difference. Whereas when it comes to physical pain, for women, it was 4.21 out of 10 on an average, and for men, it was 3.75.
This is physical pain generally or from the breakup?
From the breakup.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting research that was done very recently. But let's not focus on what the research, let's focus on the experience. Let's focus on what we believe.
So question to you, in your experience, like you said, like these things, relationships, they usually die a slow death, right?
Yeah.
Generally, mostly. Why does this happen? Like, why does it seem like relationships are breaking down more now in our generation, in the millennial generation, than they were in our parents' generation?
Yaar. So, matlab, I mean, for a generation that is obsessed with their phones, our communication skills are fucked up.
Yeah.
Have you noticed how certain people who always have their phones in their hands would never reply to your text messages, your calls, would never ever have the courtesy to even tell you? That is a problem. We suck at communicating.
It ticks me off. Like, how
is
hard is it? How hard is it to say, hey man, I'm just not in the mind space right now. I'm not in the right headspace right now.
We do that so much to each
Right,
other. Like,
exactly.
remember, we do that. Okay, yaar, sorry, not in the right headspace. Let's not
Exactly.
do this today.
Yeah.
ठीक है, it just takes that effort. But बात वो है ना कि इतनी emotional intelligence है ही नहीं ना, किसी ने सिखाया ही नहीं है. और हम सीख किन से रहे हैं? इन्फ्लुएंसर से, लोगों को देख. अपना तो कुछ सोच ही नहीं है ना. इस भैंचोद को थोड़ी देर नीचे रखोगे तो कुछ सोचोगे ना.
Yeah.
Like, you are so glued onto your device the whole day, you have no space to think.
Yeah.
How the fuck are you going to communicate if you don't think before communicating? You need to think. And secondly, priorities are fucked up, bro. Priorities are so fucked up आजकल लोगों में, or especially the younger generation.
I want to dig into this a little more. When you say priorities are messed up, how and what kind of priorities do you think are messed up?
यार पहले ज़माने में होते थे, एक लड़का लड़की आपस में बात कर रहे होते थे, कम्युनिकेट कर रहे होते थे, अच्छा हो बुरा हो, ठीक है. अब क्या प्रायोरिटीज़ हैं कि यार मैंने इंस्टाग्राम पे सेल्फी भी लगानी है, मैंने एक कैफ़े में जाके कॉफ़ी भी पीनी है, मैंने आउटफिट भी बनाने हैं, मैंने स्टाइल भी मारना है, मैंने पढ़ाई भी करनी है, मैंने ये भी करना है, और उसके बीच में जो एक्चुअल चीज़ें हैं करने वाली वो रह जाती हैं ना. प्रायोरिटीज़ बहुत फक्ड अप है. पार्टी हर वीकेंड तो लाजमी है, उसके बगैर तो फौत हो जाना है. ठीक है, पार्टी हर वीकेंड करनी है, प्लान्स बनाने, पूरी पूरी रात जागना है, पूरी सुबह सोना है. प्रायोरिटीज़ आर मेस्ड अप ना. नेचर के अगेंस्ट जा रहे हैं, कुदरत के अगेंस्ट जा रहे हैं. प्रायोरिटीज़ आर मेस्ड अप, कंप्लीटली मेस्ड अप. एक टाइम पे 4 लोगों से बात कर रहे हैं. भाई इफ़ यू आर communicating with someone, if you're with a partner, stop having these side options. That is a problem. That is the problem. अब इतनी options हैं, and what I'm going to say is not based on looks or not based on money or your status. It is based on your dimag. So a guy or a girl whose dimag is a 5 wants a guy who's a 10 in every aspect. A guy who's, if we're being very generous, is a 3, wants a 10, wants a 12. So हमारा ना बहुत ज़्यादा सिस्टम ख़राब हो चुका हुआ है. इनकी वजह से हमारी कम्युनिकेशन ब्रेक डाउन आती है. इन्हीं की वजह से हम बात नहीं कर पाते, बिकॉज हमारा दिमाग इतना जगह फंसा हुआ है यार. हमने इंटरनेट पे जाके शोदियाँ भी मारनी है, हमने कैफ़े हॉपिंग भी करनी है, हमने पार्टी हॉपिंग भी करनी है, हमने सब. तो किधर प्रायोरिटीज सही है और किधर आपके पास टाइम है कम्युनिकेट करने का? जब नींद पूरी नहीं होगी, कोई इंसानों वाला काम नहीं करोगे, जिम नहीं जाओगे, कोई वर्जिश नहीं करोगे, कोई दिमाग इससे निकालोगे बाहर थोड़ी देर, टीवी से, मीडिया से, सेलिब्रिटीज़, काइली जेनर, इसकी माँ की, उसकी माँ की, ये सब के अंदर से दिमाग. इनसे ये पूछ लो कि काइली जेनर का ब्रांड कौन सा है, वो पता है. ये नहीं पता कि तमीज़ क्या है कम्युनिकेट करने की. दैट इज़ द प्रॉब्लम.
And so, guys, I want to make this point here. We're not, Broccoli and I, we're not experts. This is just an opinion that we're giving you guys, okay? And I've seen this happen a lot where, for want of a better name, let's say Andrew Tate or, someone like Jordan B. Peterson. We have this, एक आदत बन गई हमारी कि अगर फलाने बंदे ने एक चीज़ कह दी है, ठीक है, बस that is the gospel truth.
Exactly.
Right?
और कि जो वो बात करेगा वो ठीक है.
Without doing your own damn research, without thinking, sitting down with yourself and thinking for a minute and saying, यार ये जो बात करे, does this really apply to me, who I am as a person? Does it really, even your therapist, and we've had this conversation, right? Where and we've both gone to therapy. We both
are in therapy,
right? Yeah. And we still, and we take a lot of advice from our therapists. But that said, you always need to sit down, take a moment and think about, is what this person's saying, does this apply to who I am as a person? Does this apply to my family situation? There's a lot of factors that
does this apply to how I've been brought up?
Exactly. So, and I think that's where the messed up part is.
यार देख वेस्ट को रहे हो, रहते वहाँ पे हो जहाँ पे दिन में 4 दफ़ा बिजली जाती है, जहाँ पे ये नहीं पता कि बिजली चली गई है तो वापस आएगी या नहीं आएगी, जहाँ पे वापडा फ़ोन नहीं उठाता, ठीक है, रहते यहाँ पे हो और बातें वहाँ की कर रहे हो, तो खुदा मतलब यही होगा ना फिर. मतलब हाउ डम डू यू हैव टू बी टू जस्ट फॉलो समवन ब्लाइंडली. लाइक अगर आपको एक बंदा पसंद है, फॉर एग्जाम्पल फॉर मी लाइक सर एलेक्स फर्ग्यूसन इज अ ह्यूज इंस्पिरेशन, बट I don't agree with everything he did because I have a brain of my own. I have certain values, I have certain views that do not resonate with what he did in his time.
100%, yeah.
And that is something, when you think about stuff, when you evaluate stuff, when you have certain focus in life, आपको ये चीज़ें नज़र आती हैं कि यार हर चीज़ जो एक आपको पसंद आ रहा है या नहीं हो सकता ना, उसकी हर बात ठीक हो सकती, उसकी हर चीज़ गॉस्पेल नहीं है. It isn't gospel truth, and you need to grow out of it. Really need to grow out of this and really need to start communicating. So we were talking about trauma, right? That our exes
leave us with?
Yeah. I believe men and women have their own way of dealing with it. So men tend to react more negatively, and especially initially when a relationship ends. Like, because there's a sense of shock, disbelief, and anger towards it. Shock because, oh my God, how did she leave me? Because
Ego, आपकी थोड़ी
ईगो
सी आती है.
हमारी ईगो बहुत ज़्यादा है ना, मेल ईगो बड़ी फ्रेजाइल है. पूरी ज़िंदगी माँ बाप ने और लोगों ने ऐसे पेडेस्टल पे बिठाया कि आपको लगता है कि हमारे बगैर दुनिया नहीं चल सकती.
Yeah.
Which is not the truth. I've been in that place in my life. I'm sure you've been in that place. And it is far from what the truth is. आपके बगैर क्या, किसी के बगैर भी दुनिया चलती है और चलती रही है. उनकी सेल्फ स्टीम में बहुत बड़ा डिक्लाइन आता है. बिकॉज व्हेन वंस अ वुमन वॉक्स आउट ऑन अ मैरिज, इफ इट्स द वुमन हुज वॉकिंग आउट ऑफ अ मैरिज और अ रिलेशनशिप, इट्स लाइक, ओ माय गॉड, आई एम नॉट गुड इनफ. और वो कहाँ पे, इट अगेन इट्स अमेजिंग हाउ
It all leads back to your ego.
no, it leads back to your masculinity being challenged.
Yeah.
That is why you act out. That is why you're in shock and disbelief, because आपकी ego, आपका जो decline आता है ना in your self-esteem, is because you feel I am not masculine enough for that woman,
I'm not man enough.
for that woman.
Yeah.
I'm not man enough, which is something which is not true.
And sorry, I'll let you finish and then I have something to add.
That leads to self-destructive behavior. Men are more self-destructive. ठीक है? They will abuse alcohol. They will be abuse on drugs. They jump into casual things. Foreign saathi.
To try and rebuild that sense of self-esteem.
Because the actual reality is men take a lot more time to move on than women do.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah.
And this is why, because of these reasons that are just listed above, the decline in self-esteem, the anger issues, the acting out, the going after meaningless things right after a breakup, which is why they take longer time to realize, to work on themselves, and then to move on.
And I think this is also where, as men, our friends play a role. Where, you know, especially guy friends, I know where guys will be like, यार तू बच्ची छोड़ के चलेगी, तू किस तरह का बंदा है?
Yeah, because you know what? Let me tell you something. This is something I've always wanted to say, and this is something I've always, in private gatherings, I've mentioned this, that if you have gotten divorced, you would realize something, that this is the second worst thing after losing a family member or someone close.
Yeah.
There is no bigger pain, heartbreak than going through a divorce, because it breaks you.
It does.
And when people make fun of it, try to make you feel better by trash talking about your ex, it doesn't help. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
It actually, because you know, what people don't realize is that the person that you're trash talking about was the partner a week ago. They were inseparable a week ago. So ek hafte mein he's not going to start, or she's not going to start hating on that person. It's a gradual process, right?
Yeah.
So when you make jokes about divorce or about breakups, and when you make, when you try to turn the other person into a villain, it does not help. And that is why the support system needs to be really, really, really careful about what they are saying, about how they are dealing with the person who's going through heartbreak, because it's a hell of a journey.
So for someone who is going through, if you know someone who is going through a breakup or a divorce, if you really care about this person, I think it's important for you to hold that emotional space where that person or your friend, whoever is going through the divorce or the breakup, can come to you. And you might not have all the answers, because they're gonna need a lot of answers. They're gonna need a lot of validation. This could be both guys and girls. It's important for you to hold that space for them to ask these questions, to be kind.
Yeah, matlab, it's the best thing to say is, I'm so sorry you're going through this.
Yeah.
And you can act the way you want, and I'll be supportive.
I'll be supportive, exactly.
I'll be supportive. No matter what you're going to do it. I will support you.
Exactly.
That's how. And I will tell you something later on when I'm talking about how women deal with it, of why men deal with it slightly differently. So women have a bigger sense of loss and grief, because men have anger, and shock, but they have a bigger sense of loss, women, and grief when it comes to breakups. But women are more vocal about it. They will discuss it with their friends. Men do not discuss it with their friends just because of the reasons we were
Because of
just
this.
talking about.
Exactly.
So women talk because women are more emotionally intelligent. Some are more emotionally intelligent, and they know कि अपनी girls को pick up कैसे करना है.
Yeah.
Give them that space where they can act out.
Yeah.
हमारा लड़कों का मसला है ये बहुत बड़ा, which is why men don't open up. Women are more vocal about. They will talk about how they're feeling. They then go on to this. Women then go on to do these self-care activities, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's affirmations and whatnot, and therapy, and so women tend to go towards that. But men take more time to move on. Women take more time to fall in love again
Interesting.
because they then have trust issues. They take their time to find love again, whereas men take a longer time to move on because of the process. और ये चीज़ें जो ये कर रही होती हैं, when women are going through a breakup or this trauma of a breakup, the things that I just mentioned, like the sense of loss, and they are much more vocal, and they're talking, and they're basically channeling their feelings and everything, so they become wiser.
So from personal experience, I can say that this is something that I think in my experience or from my perspective, I think both men and women go through. So, I mean, you have an experience where, let's just say, you're going through a really bad patch in your life. वो कौन था यार, वो the MMA guy, the Irish dude, cannot remember his name.
Conor McGregor,
right? So and he went through a really bad patch in his life, right? Early on, he wasn't super successful or whatever it was, but his wife stood by him, right, through thick and thin, and then now they're a really great couple and all of that. Let's just say if Conor McGregor's wife had kept telling him, "Baby, I'm with you, baby, I'm with you, baby, I'm with you," and then one good day she decides, you know what, I don't know if I want to go through the struggle with Conor.
Because here's the thing, saying "baby, I'm with you" to a person who's making a visible change, but there are people who don't.
Yeah.
And देख हर बंदे का अपना एक threshold होता है.
मेरी बात खत्म नहीं हुई. So the point I'm trying to make is,
Yeah.
so you have Conor McGregor, you have his, well, in this case, it's a fantasy wife.
Okay.
Not in the real world, and she keeps telling him, "Baby, I'm with you, right? You have my support. I've got your back." One good day she says, "You know what? I don't think this is worth the struggle. I'm gonna go. Bye." What is that going to do to Conor? How do you think is he going to feel a year down the line or 2 years down the line when someone comes, puts her hand on his and says, "Baby, I've got your back"?
Oh, he will feel like an absolute idiot.
Right?
Yeah.
He's going to be like, "You know what? It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait and see when things get tough."
That's where choosing the right partner matters.
Yeah.
Because somebody who's just saying these beautiful things like we just talked about at the beginning of the show, and somebody who actually means it, are two very different people. And it takes a very strong partner to stay when the chips are down.
When the chips are down.
It takes a very, very strong partner, which is why I feel the current generation is not there yet. They're not strong because they are getting into relationships and marriages for the wrong reason. So you need a really strong partner, somebody who absolutely knows कि क्या करना है, and she's ready to go through some real lows.
Yeah.
Some real lows.
And guys,
it's all fun and games when everything is flying and great and we have wind at your back.
The honeymoon period is amazing,
But
right?
when that ends,
oh my god,
shit hits the roof. That's when you actually get to know कि ये कैसा है और ये कैसी है.
I don't think, and this is something that Ali and I can talk about from personal experience. I don't think people realize the highs and the lows that life can put you through. And we're not talking relationship-wise. We're talking generally, with work, with your family. Life could go, like literally, if you've heard the song Lari Chuti, life can go from 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds. it is exactly like that. It goes up like that and it comes down like that. And it is important for you to have a partner who's willing to stick by you either through both through the highs and the lows. And if they're not willing to do that, if they just don't have it in them to do that, then they're not the right person for you to be with. They're in it for all the wrong reasons. They're in it because they're either, I see it a lot right now on my social media where people are chasing a high or chasing a feeling or chasing that
instant
feeling of
gratification.
that chemistry, right?
Yeah.
कि यार वो chemistry खत्म हो गई है तो बस अब maybe we don't have the spark anymore तो and that's not what love really is. It's not you're not that's not the definition of love. Love is so much more.
The biggest problem that we've seen for years and years and generations and centuries is people get attracted to each other physically and they feel, oh my God. But the truth is, physical attraction lasts weeks.
Yeah.
It's what you bring to the table. I mean, since like, चलें इस तरह बात करते हैं, that women who are very pretty think that their looks are enough to hold a relationship. I'm sorry, but it's not. If you think that's enough and it is the only thing that you need to bring to the table, you are in for a very harsh shock of your life once you get into a serious relationship. Because what you bring as a partner is much more important than looks, and we have for years and years, everyone, कोई एक बंदा इस दुनिया में नहीं जो इस बात से disagree करेगा. They've always fallen for someone who looks great, who's hot, who's happening, who's woe. But the reality is far more complex. Like when you get, especially when you are living in with someone or when you get married to someone, then it's about a partnership. Then it's about how you go through tough phases and how you communicate in tough phases. अब मैं तो एक example देता हूँ. Not every disagreement is an argument.
Yeah.
But 90% of the people and 90% of my experiences, every time I try or every time people try to have a conversation about some disagreement turns into an ugly argument. It's not that. I can disagree with you in a good manner. It's not an attack on you.
Yeah. It just means you have a different opinion.
Which is why we suck.
Yeah.
हमारी communication skills इतने बुरे हैं, इतने massive flaws हैं उसके अंदर, because हमें बस फौरन हमें वो नहीं सुनना कि क्या मसला है, हमें उसके सिर्फ अच्छी चीज़ें सुननी है. और ये बहुत बड़ा मसला बन चुका है दुनिया में. इस वक्त इतना बड़ा इशू बन चुका है because we're not ready to have fictional characters उठा लो, fictional चीज़ें उठा लो. Monica and Chandler had disagreements. Look how they dealt with it. Rachel and Ross had disagreements, and look how they dealt with it.
Yeah. That's an interesting reference point.
Reference point. मैं ये reference point इसलिए ले रहा हूँ ताकि इन लोगों को समझ आ जाए, because ये इन चीज़ों में ज़्यादा हैं और नॉर्मल लोगों को ये कम वैल्यू देते हैं. तो सिर्फ रेफरेंस पॉइंट के सिर्फ इन दोनों आप उठाएं उन दोनों रिलेशनशिप्स को और डाइसेक्ट करें और देखें कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है. हाउ दे डिसएग्री एंड हाउ दे डिसएग्री. Their disagreement leads to, we were on a break, fight, flana, oh, go sleep with the other one. Their disagreement leads to something else. It leads to a resolution. It leads to them working on that problem. I think that is a huge issue.
Wow. That's new. I've never actually dissected it or looked at it that way.
I have started doing that. I have started because I feel people relate to these characters more than they relate to themselves.
That is true, yeah.
So I feel like everybody is like, oh, I'm so Ross, oh, I'm so Phoebe. वो ना ये उसी में फंसे हुए हैं आज तक. So I think इनकी ज़ुबान ही बोलनी चाहिए फिर. So I think it's good to look at fictional characters and see where the flaws are and see how they deal with it. How I Met Your Mother. Robin Shabasky.
Yeah.
One of the worst characters ever on fucking television.
Yeah.
A woman was a mess.
And
she was a complete mess. And she, when I was younger and I was watching it, I was like, oh, bichari,
damn. Yeah.
bichari. But when I look at her now, I'm like, oh my God, she's such a turn-off.
Yeah.
Like,
and
I would not in a million years date somebody like that.
it ticks me off that Ted was on her case for forever.
Because,
like, come on, man.
and थोड़ा सा यार self-esteem होनी चाहिए इंसान में ना. थोड़ा सा आप अब सेल्फ उस टेड में नहीं थी, which is why I don't like him as a character. He had no self esteem. एक ही दफ़ा रिजेक्ट हुए जा रहे हो, टेक द हिंट, fucking move on.
यार सीरीज भी तो चलानी थी 10
हाँ ठीक है, मैं वो तो उन्होंने क्रिएटिव वो करना था, बट देन अगेन बात वो है 5 में भी ख़त्म हो सकती थी, ठीक है ना. लेकिन मतलब ये मैं सिर्फ ये बातें इसलिए कर रहा हूँ बिकॉज ये लोग ज़्यादा उनसे रिलेट करते हैं, तो इनको शायद ये समझ आ जाए कि मैं कहना क्या चाह रहा हूँ, कि इन चीज़ों को ना एनालाइज जस्ट एंटरटेनमेंट पर्पस में ना देखें. अगर फिर सो इनटू दिस होल टीवी मीडिया सेलिब्रिटीज एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट शिट, देन जस्ट dissect relationships of your favorite TV shows and you will know exactly what is right and what is wrong. Look at how Lily and Marshall,
that was actually fairly healthy relationship.
fairly because they were all very like too involved with each other, and they had boundary issues. That whole group of friends had real severe boundary issues, according to me. But then I think the way they have this episode where they're about to get into a real big fight and they got pause. I think that's, and I've tried that, it really works, by the way. It works like a charm. Because you pause, you think, you reflect, and then you come back ठंडे होके फिर उस बात को ज़रा decent तरीके से भी किया जा सकता है ना. हर चीज़ जब माँ दी पैन दी नहीं करनी होती ना.
All right, so we've talked about how communication or the lack of communication, leads to breakups. But coming back to how breakups affects us as men and women. Let's say you have decided that, hey man, this isn't working out, time to move on. What is the best way to do it? And are you accountable in any part or way for how that whole thing plays out?
You have to be, so I'm going to say something which is controversial, but there is no such a thing as a good sophisticated breakup. पहली बात, ठीक है, that's a myth. Breakups are always ugly. Unless दोनों लोगों की कोई केमिस्ट्री ना हो, कोई इमोशन, कोई फीलिंग ना हो, they're just living in together, married, और फिर it's a really normal thing. बट जहाँ पर हिस्ट्री हो, जहाँ पे केमिस्ट्री हो, जहाँ पे थोड़ा आपस में प्यार हो ना, वो कभी हो ही नहीं सकता कि वो ब्रेकअप जो है वो हो.
Clean breakup.
And you cannot stay friends. Sorry, I'm sorry. That's a huge...
It's a huge red flag, guys.
It's a huge red flag,
It's a
man.
huge red flag.
You cannot stay friends with your exes. I'm sorry, that's never going to happen. That's never going to work out. It's always going to be ugly. And breakups will always be ugly. But uska aapke... So the thing that you can do, the right thing that you can do, is don't go trash talking about your partner. I think that's really bad. And हमारे यहाँ पे क्या होता है, स्पेशली हमारे यहाँ पे आंटियाँ और घर वाले जो करते हैं, वो साथ ही बेचारी औरत को ना जलील करना शुरू कर देते हैं. तुमने नोट किया किस तरह फोकस सारा आ जाता है कि उसने तो ये भी नहीं किया, वो तो ये भी नहीं करती थी, सानू तो पहले ही पता सी. वो पता थी तो बोल देंगे यार, हमें तो पहले नज़र आ गया था भाई. इनको सब एक पहले नज़र आ रहे थे. नजूमी के बच्चे तो हमारी पूरी जो कौम है, इनसे बड़ा नजूमी कोई नहीं है. इनको पहले पता चल जाता है हर चीज़, ठीक है. The more you trash talk about her, the more you fall in your own eyes. You need to show some class.
Some dignity.
Breakups happen. You need to show some class and dignity. It is very, very important. Second part, stop looking for closure. 90% of the people have never gotten it in their life. I mean, it's beautiful because again, Ross and Rachel, because Rachel said it, कि closure, उसके वो, oh my god, ये तो buzzword बन गया. उसके बाद तो बहन हमने उसकी माँ बहन एक कर दी उस word की, इस term की. वो कुछ नहीं मिलता भाई, closure कोई नहीं मिलता. Because one person doesn't give a fuck.
That is true, yeah.
One person is so fed up, they don't give a fuck. Could be the guy, could be the girl. They don't give a fuck. तो ये जो expectation है closure मिले, closure नहीं मिलता. Closure कब मिलता है? जब आप अपने ऊपर काम करें, आप उससे निकल कर आएँ, बेहतर बंदी बने, बेहतर इंसान बने, तब क्लोजर मिलता है. तब समझ आती है ये हुआ क्यों है. Because sometimes you don't know what the universe is trying to tell you. And you realize it after so many years that, oh my God, had I stayed in that relationship, my life would have been so much worse than what it is today. So I think personal responsibility. तीसरी चीज़ जो बहुत ज़रूरी है. It is not your job to look after their sorrow. Please stop doing that. It is not your job to look after your ex-partner's sorrow and to make sure they are all right. Your job is to focus on yourself. Your job is to make sure that you are channeling your feelings in the right direction. And your job is to work on yourself and how you feel. Stop trying to
be their therapist, basically.
Be their therapist after a breakup. Like, it's not your job. She's going through a mess. She's doing stuff. Let her do it.
Yeah.
Oh, she must have felt that. She must have felt this and that. और आजकल सोशल मीडिया के टाइम पे तो वैसे ही वो बड़ा ग्रेजुअल होता है. पहले वो फॉलो एक दूसरे को कर रहे होते हैं. उसके बाद आहिस्ता आहिस्ता चुप चुप करके वो स्टोरियाँ वो जो पोस्टें होती हैं वो हटती हैं. फिर वो एक दूसरे को स्टोरियों से हाइड करते हैं ताकि ये ना पता चले क्या हो रहा है. उसके बाद 5-6 महीने बाद वो अनफॉलो एक बंदा करता है. फिर तब में दूसरा बंदा भी कर देता है. तो इट्स बिकम वर्स नाउ. सो ये चीज़ें ना आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है. आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी सिर्फ आप हैं ब्रेकअप के बाद.
I also feel so. I wanted to add to this, by the way, and this is something that you and I, had a discussion about outside of this. All of that is understood, right? Ke responsibility, aapki, to who are you responsible when you are going through a divorce or a breakup and all of that. But that said, there is still a mature way of breaking up with someone, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're married.
Yeah.
And we saw a very public example. I don't know if it was for publicity's sake or if it was just, whatever the justification or reasons were. A very famous influencer / blogger broke up with his partner recently on I think social media.
Yeah.
And it was messy. It was difficult. But I think what you and I liked about it was that there was actually a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And I think wo jo baat tum kar rahe the na closure ki, I think there is a slight bit of closure there that you can get. And I also feel
it's a very small percentage that
it's a very small percentage.
Very lucky people who get that actually.
So,
not everyone is lucky.
If ab main baat isliye kar raha hu because we also try to be evolved and we try to be aware, mindful, like all of these buzzwords हमारे ज़हन में कहीं ना कहीं चल रहे होते हैं, ठीक है? तो अगर हम इतना if we're buying into all of that, right, and we're trying to be evolved and we're trying to be more mindful, यहाँ पे आके mindfulness क्यों खत्म हो जाती है? Why does it not apply to this? Why can we not say, all right, you know what? I feel my time with this person is ending, and yes, it's going to be ugly. Maybe there is something I can do maturely to end this and make it less painful for the both of us.
How many times have you actually seen a mutual breakup? Be honest.
It's rare, very rare.
That's your answer. One partner has no idea and the other has already moved on in their head.
That's true, yeah.
How are you going to be mature about that? And at the end of the day, we're very emotional beings. We are driven by emotions, most of us.
Yeah.
Some are very balanced in their emotions. Most of us are not. If you don't see something coming, all hell will break loose.
Yeah.
So it's easier said than done. Be mature about it, but it's never mature.
True.
Because there's hardly ever a mutual breakup.
True.
There's always one person who's not happy, trying to break free, and the other who's dumb enough maybe or can't read the room, doesn't know that it's inevitable. So he doesn't have an idea or she doesn't have an idea. And it happens and I'm like, oh my God.
So if you were to, let's just say, in a relationship, do you think you would at least try and do something that, this particular blogger did?
Can't say much about the blogger because I'm in some way have an affiliation with them.
Okay.
I feel it was great. It was a very mature kind of a video.
Yeah.
But I think the way they dealt with it post that, it's kind of childish.
Okay. I'm not aware of what
That's just my take. And I can't be completely wrong, which I am most of the time. But I don't really give a fuck because it's my opinion. But I feel you can't stay, keep mentioning each other in each other's stories and, oh my God, friends and meet up and all that and family time. Well, you had feelings. यहाँ तो फिर नहीं है उनकी, यहाँ तो फिर वो बकवास कर रहे हैं, उनकी feelings कभी थी नहीं. If you have feelings for someone, you're going to meet them every day. How the fuck are you expected to move on from that? You cannot move. What you see, you can't move on from what you see every day or what you feel with that person.
Yeah.
The only way is for us block kar do, khudafis kar do, move on. Don't spy on what they're up to. Don't go on their stories and check out what they're doing. Don't ask people kya chal raha hai, kya nahi. Move the fuck on. The only way possible, which is very hard. It's easier said
It
than
is,
done.
yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think we've all done that.
Yeah. I know you've done it. Just joking. Anyway, it's been a long session, man. So, all right. So we've talked about how to, or maybe try to have a healthy breakup. We've talked about things ideally. The reason I say ideally is because, these are all ideals we can try and to live up to.
Yeah.
But like you said, we're emotionally driven beings. Nahi pata ki bhi hamari emotions. When will your emotions take over logic and, completely not mess the whole situation up, but sort of take the lead on things. How do we move on from there? There is a stigma that is attached to men and women, who are divorced, especially to women in society.
I think we need to talk about the stigma first, and then we talk about the movie, because I think it's a very, very, very wrong thing to put that stigma on divorced women. Because मर्दों को फिर भी होता है, मर्दों में भी होता है. Don't get me wrong, men also go through that, but at a much lower scale than what women go through. These are experiences. You end up with someone, things don't work out, you move on, and everyone has a choice.
And no one wants this.
Nobody goes into a marriage or a relationship thinking, oh, we're going to break up one day.
Yeah.
It's always us forever together. That's what
Yeah.
we've seen. What everybody thinks. But you realize कि यार, this again is not the person, is not my person. This is not going to work out. I have to, मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा sacrifice करना पड़ रहा है और मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ों के साथ put up करना पड़ रहा है, and this person is not evolving or not changing or not doing what I expected from him or her. So ये जो stigma है of divorced women needs to change. They are still as desirable, as relevant, and as beautiful as they were before. Even more so. Because their experience has hopefully
Made them wiser.
made them wiser. Exactly. Because, sorry girls, but most of the times you guys go for these toxic guys, these high school sweethearts, these good looking boys who do you dirty. And I hope that makes you wiser with your choices. And I hope you see that yes, certain chemistry and physical attraction is really important, but that's not the only thing you need to look for.
Yeah.
So the stigma needs to end, and it really, really needs to end. And ये कब तक नहीं होगा जब तक ये भैंचो ड्रामे जो हमारे बंद नहीं होंगे और ये जो फजूल किस्म का कंटेंट टीवी पे चलता है. Like fucking hell, man. Have you seen some of these things? मुझे लोगों ने so I was talking to people, and आजकल तो मैं जिनसे भी बात कर रहा हूँ, it's like half of the time it's because I want to do some research, and they have started sending me these clips, because मैं तो कभी जिंदगी में ये ड्रामे नहीं देखे. They've started sending me these clips of these dramas, of Pakistani dramas, and how उफ अल्लाह, मेरा दिल करता है कि बंदा टीवी में घुस के चपेड़े मारे इन लोगों को यार तुम कौन से ज़माने के हो. और ये वो लोग हैं भाई, ये कुछ डायरेक्टर्स हैं, चीज़ें हैं, जो ये वो लोग हैं जो बहुत बड़े एडवोकेट हैं इन चीज़ों के, बट एक्चुअली जो कंटेंट बना रहे हैं ना, वो ऐसा शिट कंटेंट है कि वो that feeds into this mentality.
It does. Guys, remember, a divorced woman, no matter what the reason, right? She is still, like Ali said, she's still a complete person. She's still a complete woman. She still has dreams. She still has wants in life. She still has aspirations. And those are very valid for anyone. And they're just as valid for her as they are for someone who's never been married before.
Yeah.
Right? And she has every right. She has every right to follow those. So, for God's sake, please, let's try and stop looking at divorcees. Someone's going to, correct my pronunciation for this. Let's stop looking at divorcees with that, or from that angle, that they are damaged goods. Right? I wanted to talk about this
because it boils my blood when they say that.
Yeah. And
it fucking infuriates me, because nobody's damaged goods. Nobody is. And that is what is wrong with us. I mean, I've seen a lot of people in the West. वहाँ पे भी ये होता है, लेकिन इस स्केल पे नहीं होता है जिस स्केल पे यहाँ पे होता है. There's a whole different kind of a pool, option pool, for divorced men and women to the marriage virgin ones. which is so fucked up. कि वो उनकी कैटेगरी बदल गई है ना, वो अब वो एमेच्योर उसमें आ गए हैं, एमेच्योर से उसमें चले गए हैं, या यूज्ड इन अब्यूज कैटेगरी, विच इज सो फक्ड अप यार. मतलब इतनी हम बातें करते हैं कि हम बड़ी वोक नेशन है और हम तो बड़ी ज़बरदस्त नेशन है, कोई हमें बाहर वाला कोई बात कर दे तो हम ऐसे खड़े हो जाते हैं यहाँ पे सारे नारे लगाने के लिए कि जैसे हमसे तो बड़ी प्यारी कोई नेशन नहीं है. एक्चुअल रियलिटी हमारी ये है कि हम बहुत फक्ड अप हैं. अपने कुछ जो हमारे दिमागों में जो आइडियाज़ हैं ना, बहुत फक्ड अप है. एंड नाउ moving on from that, now that I've addressed this issue, I think it's very important to stay single for a while. It's very, 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 very important. It's something the current crop of people are so bad at. It is very important to stay single. It is very important to work on yourself, to work on the issues, because deep down, somewhere, you know what the problems are, why it didn't work out. And if those problems are pointing towards certain flaws in your personality, then you need to identify them and work on them. And when I say work on them, there's this misconception about isolation का जो होता है ना कि I'm a huge believer, you know me. I'm a huge believer in isolation. I feel isolating yourself is one of the wisest things you can do. But isolation is not what people think it is. You still meet people who are close to you. You still meet your good friends, your good circle. But you get rid of this fucker for 1 hour or 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
You sit and you think deeply. You go into therapy. Please, people, for the love of God, go into therapy. Some of you need exorcism, but that's a different discussion.
But in all honesty, I think if they just started with this, with putting the phone away
And deep thinking.
Reflection, a bit of reflection. Ask yourself, could I have been a little wiser about something? Could I have been a little kinder with how I dealt with my mom or with my friend or with my daughter today?
Sorry to disturb. मेरा एक बॉस था, वो बड़ी ज़बरदस्त बात करता था. वो मुझे कहता था कि मैं जब जाता हूँ ना ऑफिस के बाद घर, तो रात को ना खाना खा के जो 1-आध घंटा होता है सोने से पहले, मैं बैठ के रिफ्लेक्ट करता हूँ कि यार, could I have done this better?
Yeah.
Could I have avoided saying this or doing this or acting out in a certain way? And he was like, I do that on a daily basis. And it showed in his personality that guy he used to come back and say, you know what, I'm sorry. Maybe my idea was not the best yesterday. Maybe how I dealt with that situation was not the best. And you want that kind of a person to lead you in a corporate, very corporate sort of a...
Which is another discussion, because, you and I have a lot of experience with that. And
so you need to have the ability to self-reflect and do that every day. Because then it makes it easier. वो जो पिछले 20 सालों का जो वो इकट्ठा हुआ होगा ना, उसको नहीं फिर एवरी डे करोगे तो वो बड़ा आसान हो जाएगा. बिकॉज जब वो पिछले 20 सालों का करना पड़ता है ना, तो फिर आपको समझ ही नहीं आती कि आपके साथ हुआ क्या.
And can you imagine, and I know we're sort of digressing from the conversation here, but can you imagine if you are a manager or a boss who does that, the effect it has on the team that you manage, the effect that it will have on their work, positive effect, by the way. And then when you see that effect, it builds the whole team up. It builds you up. It builds your company up. And the effect is manifold, which is why I keep going back to saying charity begins at home. And home is here.Ome is you.
Yeah.
Right?
Home is right here.
Home is right here. It's deep inside you. Anyway, with that said, do you want to add something else? Yeah.
Yeah. So, work on yourself. Give yourself some time, space. And दोस्तों, बड़ा ज़रूरी है राइट एक्सपेक्टेशंस. ये पता होना चाहिए नेक्स्ट टाइम कि मैंने क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस, कम्युनिकेशन कैसे बेहतर करनी है, और थोड़े भाई स्टैंडर्ड्स रख लो. यार मैंने एक दो जो मसला देखा है आजकल, अल्लाह मियाँ भाई, लोगों के स्टैंडर्ड्स ही नहीं है. एंड आई एम नॉट ट्राइंग टू साउंड लाइक अ क्लासिस्ट हियर, बिकॉज दैट्स नॉट हु आई एम एंड दैट्स नॉट what I support. But having standards is so important when it comes to friendships, when it comes to choosing a partner, when it comes to choosing a career, when it comes to choosing your profession, your goals. Standards होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. You build those standards up and you say कि no matter what, मैं अपने standards lower नहीं करूँगा. Just because I'm feeling vulnerable, lonely tonight, I am not going to start talking to someone जिसके साथ मेरी बात नहीं बन सकती. Have those standards, stick by him, be a man. I'm sorry I said that because I'm going to get a lot of hate from women. Well, like, be woke enough to realize Standards are a beautiful thing if you are not cocky about them, if you are realistic about them.
And just to, I mean, I'm going to add one more thing and then we'll close off today's episode. I suddenly remembered when you were talking about standards, I suddenly remembered what it was in the last episode that I couldn't remember, which was be clear about casual dating. And I wanted to talk about casual dating. Casual dating means that you are, it doesn't, so there is a stigma around casual dating, right? Casual
Rightly
dating
so.
basically means the actual, for me, the idea is that you're just exploring yourself, right? To understand what you like, what you don't like, who you are in a relationship, what your preferences are. And I think casual dating at a certain stage for a short while is important for that self-discovery process to happen. And then once you are clear with all of those things, then you move on into something that is more serious. Because then you've had the time to discover, you know, what your preferences are and who you really think you can gel with.
दोस्त पहली बात 2 बातें करूंगा casual dating के बारे में. Nobody does it to discover themselves.
They do it to discover
किसको
other things.
किसको चूतिया बना रहे हो? You know, they do it to do other stuff. That's what the norm is now right now.
I mean, my belief is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I respect your belief, but I feel that you're the only one who thinks like that. ठीक है. Second चीज़ ये है कि casual dating में भी कुछ rules होते हैं और casual dating does not work. Why? One person ends up having feelings, developing feelings. The other person puts up with it. Eventually it breaks up. One gets really badly hurt. एक बंदा fully involved हो चुका होता है, दूसरा उतना नहीं होता. एक बंदा ज़रूर hurt होता है. And that I don't know what you can say. I will not change my belief on this. I think most humans are not designed to be casual with each other, because especially when you're getting physical with someone, there's a certain element of yourself that you're sharing with, you're not sharing with someone else.
Yeah.
And that brings you closer together.
Yeah.
And that, I don't think, is how it was meant to be.
True.
So I'm not a firm believer in casual dating.
Anyway, I mean, well, my concept is different. So, guys, we could go on like all evening because we are good friends and we have had these conversations many times and we probably will, hopefully over years to come. But if you guys like our content, leave a like for us below and subscribe to our channel. We're also on Instagram and TikTok. We will leave the the IDs. Hopefully you can see them right now. Follow us, engage with us.
Write to us, DM us if you disagree with something. If you want to be on the show, write to us.
Yeah, right.
Share your story.
Not to me. I don't want to. Anyway, this show is about everyday conversations, guys. Just like you have with your friends in your living room or at a dhaba, or if you are a pindi boy like me, over a plate of saver ka pulao.
But our song नहीं खाया.
Wow, that's okay. We could have one right after. Thank you very much, guys. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.